Want to build a thriving business while making a much bigger impact in the world by becoming known as an influential voice in your industry? The choice versus just a choice with your ideal client? That's exactly what you're going to learn as I interview business experts, industry thought leaders, and entrepreneurs who are in the trenches making their mark so you can too. This is the award-winning podcast, The Ambitious Entrepreneur Show, and I'm your host, Anne-Marie Cross. And welcome to another episode. So my guest today says how we came to be is who we are now. And she'll share more about what she means with that quote. And joining me on today's show is Carrie West. Carrie, she is a life coach using her entertainment industry experience to support her clients with their life and business stories. Now, she says that a well-developed, balanced story, it brings fulfillment and success in business, in relationships, and in life. And she helps people and businesses change the underlying story on stories that impede their abilities for success. Now, Carrie is the author of Memoir of an Ordinary Person and the Stories That Changed Her Life. And that's due for release in 2024, so this year. Now, on today's show, Carrie's going to share we can all have the happiness and fulfillment and abundance and all of the other buzzwords of what we want, but somehow they can elude us, seemingly just beyond our reach. Why is that? She's also going to talk about how you're going to walk away from listening to today's episode feeling inspired and a sense of, yes, I can do this, because you can. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Carrie and I had a discussion a couple of months ago, and I tell you, we could have talked for hours, and I'm sure this episode is going to be just the same. She says change and growth can be fun as well as easy. So welcome, Carrie.
I have no idea what to say about that. That was such a great lead-in. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, and I'm so glad and honored that you can be on my show. As I mentioned, we spoke earlier, probably a couple of months ago now. Yeah. But when you meet someone and you haven't really met them face to face or even online, you might have heard about them, done a bit of research, but the conversation just bubbles along as if you were long lost, buddies from way back. And that certainly is how the conversation and how I felt as well. But let's dive in, because I know we've got a lot of information to cover, and the things that you're talking about today can really make an impact on our businesses, but as you say, in life as well. And I love the quote that we mentioned earlier, how we came to be is who we are now. And I know that you really help people develop, create, unearth their origin stories. Can you define what origin story is so that those who may not have heard that term can get up to speed?
Absolutely. Our origin stories are crucial. They're crucial. They're the beginning. They talk about what formed us. They are the story of what formed us. And it's in business, my sister works with a lot of entrepreneurs, and she's always encouraging them to tell the story. When you are going to investors, you entice investors by having a great story. How did you come up with this idea? What inspired you to create this business, this product? It's more than just solving a problem. It spoke to you. It spoke to you in such a deep, profound way that you took action. You were motivated. And our motivations come from our emotions, and our motivations build the themes of our stories. The theme of our story is love always wins, good versus evil, power corrupts. Tough lessons make us stronger. There's so many themes that there's a number of different themes. So when you look at it from a business perspective, what inspired you? Why, of all the possible businesses you could have picked, and there's a number of them, why this one? What was it about this one that you felt you just had to solve it? You had to engage with it. And that makes it personal. That makes it compelling. And that is how you connect with investors, with buyers, with customers, it snowballs. And I have to say, I think one of the reasons why you and I connected is because we told our stories, and our
Mhm.
stories made us vulnerable. And they tell us it's safe to talk, it's safe to connect. And so
Yes.
in a personal level, that gets started from the day we're born. How are we
Mhm.
received into our families? How do the messages that our families impart on us, how do those become a part of our story? Same as in business. Why this story instead of another one? Why
Mhm.
you did you choose this path of life versus another one? So
Yes.
knowing that why is crucial. In business, once you know the why, it is so easy to see the culture that comes out of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the culture is directly related to your origin story. I don't
Yes.
I don't know if you recall when Facebook got started, that started this whole trend, because they were college guys working out of their dorm rooms. When they finally got the business set up and had a business, they wanted a playroom. So they built this giant warehouse with a big playroom. So you worked hard and you played hard and you worked 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, everything after that, every tech company after that had some kind of a playroom. The floors were polished cement, that was open ceilings, real kind of warehouse look, and that became a thread for all tech companies to build their businesses. The problem with that was this was Facebook's culture. This was Facebook's founders' story. The story of how they worked in their dorm rooms, the stories of these young kids wanting to play and be successful. It didn't
Mhm.
fit for every other tech company around, but people mimicked it. People mimicked
Yes.
that story because they thought by copying parts of Facebook's culture, they could copy Facebook's success. Didn't work out that way for quite a few of them.
Mhm.
That is the
So
power.
important. Yes,
Yes.
so important, and as we know, there's real power in stories. So you mentioned the origin story and other stories as well really connect to our audience, particularly if we're looking for investors, potential clients, shareholders, stakeholders, those sort of people who we want to come and support our business in one way or shape or form. So what are some of the elements that make a good origin story? What are some things we need to focus on? Why I ask that is we could probably have 100 different things or many, many, many things that we can include in our origin story. And we want to make sure that the story we share is compelling. As you said, they can be compelling. So, what information do we need to include in that to ensure that it is compelling and not something that the investor is thinking, I hope this person finishes soon because you know the difference
Yes.
between compelling and not compelling. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, I mirror this because of my experience in the film industry and the entertainment industry and my passion for stories. I use the same elements as you would in a story.
Mm,
So in any story arc, it starts with an inciting incident. And your inciting incident is that jumping off point. It's that point of here's a problem I want to solve.
mhm.
What was the problem you're trying to solve? Why did you go here? What is that inciting incident? So many people will say, I came up with this idea because
Right.
when I started this one business, it wasn't my idea, but I had been in a writing class at UCLA and somebody said, can you create this website that does X, Y, and Z? And me being a poor college student working on a novel, said, sure, I can do that. Had no idea what I was doing, brought together a team of people. We built this website. It turned into being website software that grew into a business. So when I would tell investors about that story, they thought it was hilarious. They thought they connected with the fact that I had no idea what I was doing, but I was in a writing class and yeah, this was compelling and I knew some people that could help. So I put it together and it turned into a business. So
Yes.
they loved it. They loved the authenticity of it. They loved the honesty of it. But it was that inciting incident. Meeting that woman in my writing class was what started me on that step to that business. The second
Yeah.
piece of it, who are your characters? Characters are the heart and soul of every story.
Mhm.
Characters are the vehicle for the story to progress. In a business, your characters are your employees. They're very much your business customers. They are definitely your clients. If it's a service industry and you're providing a service, it's your clients that you're servicing. If it's a product, it's the people that buy your product. Those are the characters in your stories. Competitors. Competitors are awesome. They can either be your antagonists or your foils. And a foil is somebody who seems to always be there tripping you up. In a business, they're the ones that always put out the RFP when, the response for a quote, they go up against a bid and you're always going up against them and they keep winning the projects and you're not. So this is a key character. So when you know your characters, you start to understand them. You
Mm.
wonder, why does this one competitor, it's so annoying. Every time I go out to meet a customer, they seem to be walking out the door when I walk in. How does this happen? So you want to start to know these characters in your story. What compels them? What drives them? But remember, you're the protagonist of your story. You are the star. You get
Mhm.
top billing. So look at these other characters and how do you relate to them? What is their importance in your story? So clearly you know who your customers are, their value and importance. Your
Mm.
investors. Even your insurance company is one of the characters in your story. It may be a tertiary or background character, but everyone you interact with in some way, shape, or form is a character. So know who those characters are. When you have your foil or your antagonist, like a competitor can be, sometimes government regulators can be antagonists. If you're in a
Mhm.
business that's highly regulated, and one of the things we're dealing with in this country is they've been raising minimum wage. So a lot of franchisee owners who have fast food restaurants are struggling because they can't cover the minimum wage that they're now being legally forced to cover. So that can be an antagonist and a foil in this case. So what do you do about that? How do you pay your employees meeting the standards with the government? How do you deal with your state representatives so you can do something about that? So knowing these pitfalls in your process in your story will help you be able to address it. Sometimes we get afraid to bring these to the surface, but if you look at them, you figure out how to address it. It does not have to stop you from being successful in your business. In fact, I would argue that knowing the foils and the antagonists of your story is a great way to work with them, to get around them, to make peace with this in your story so that you can be successful. The other
Yes.
elements then are your theme and your motivations. Again, theme and motivation go hand in hand. If your story is like my theme is, I want to change the world one story at a time.
Mhm.
Every story they sometimes call it the byline, when you go to a website and they'll say, "Hi, I'm John Smith and I am solving the world's problems by making a better mousetrap." That's
Mhm.
their theme. That's their theme. Very easy. They put it out there. But as a business owner, are you staying true to that theme? This is a theme you may have come up with when you first started the business. Is it still true today? And if
Mhm.
not, why not? It's okay if your theme has changed. Let's face it, in our lives, our themes change all the time. We go after new themes. We change once we achieve a goal, we change a theme. I have a theme of wanting to travel. I have a bucket list. I want to be in every country before I die. So your theme would be to be a world traveler. That changes over a period of time. But then what goes hand in hand with theme is your motivation. And the motivation ties back to the origin story of, why did you start this? What was the problem you wanted to solve?
Ah,
So Go ahead.
So let me ask you, Carrie, with the themes, they may change. The original origin story, that would stay the same. The theme may influence that, but it still will stem back because you mentioned it goes back to your origin story. Yes?
Yes, 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 it does, absolutely. But sometimes your origin story has to be reevaluated.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. These are giant corporations and may not work so much for entrepreneurship, but in the entrepreneur world, there's a famous thing that people will say to an entrepreneur: you need to pivot.
Mm,
How many times have we said to our entrepreneurial clients, it may be time to pivot?
yeah.
And what that means is your original idea that you were so passionate about somehow isn't getting the same enthusiasm in the market that you hoped it would get.
Mm,
So it's decision time in your story. What are you going to do? Do you want to change your story? Is there something about the product that can be changed? Because whenever you want to change your origin story, you need to look at your product first. How's your product doing in the marketplace? Maybe you need new staff. Maybe
mm,
you partnered with, and I know for me, I had to bring on a CEO when I started that business because that wasn't my passion. That was something that I fell into. So I brought on a CEO who had a completely different view of the world than I did.
yeah.
And so the origin story was going to be impacted by that. It was no longer about how I fell into it. It was about solving this other problem, which was right, but it
Mhm.
was time to change. So you either change your product, you change your staff, or you change your customers. You may realize that the customers that you thought would be interested in your product weren't interested, but
Mm,
you have a better mousetrap that these folks over here really want, and you hadn't thought about that before. So the key is
yes.
to be open to what your product and what your story is telling you.
Mhm. And when done well, and obviously working with a specialist expert such as yourself, Carrie, you're able to pick up an element of that original origin story because you should then be through demonstrating maybe some evolution or growth or change. People can get a sense of the original context and see along the story. And I love that because things do change, situations
Mhm.
change. And I know that, over the last 4 years, many businesses needed to pivot because of what was happening externally. And that is not necessarily always bad. I know businesses opened up completely new marketplaces when they were driven online and
Yes.
realized, oh my goodness, we don't have to do extensive travel.
Mhm.
So when done well and guided well, you really can put together, a key origin story. Share a little bit more around some of the other things, with your origin story. You can use it if you've got 20 minutes to share it. You should perhaps have a version of a 10-minute origin story. So, kind of cut down with some of the highlight points. What are some of the things that we can use creatively when we're thinking about our origin story and how we can weave it into some of the, marketing and communications that we do to get our message out there?
I love that, and I think you're absolutely right. One of the key things how many times have you heard the idea of creating an elevator pitch? Raise
Yes.
your hand if you have an
All
elevator pitch.
all the time. We're always
All the
told, "Yes,
time.
here we go." Yeah.
Yes, yes. If you can take your origin if you can turn your origin story into an elevator pitch, you are golden. And it's actually quite easy to do. It requires creativity and cleverness, but it's even like what I did with my business. I'm changing businesses by changing their origin stories, by rebuilding their origin stories. And if nothing else, that gets people intrigued because it's like you said in the beginning, origin stories. What are those? And that's what the
Yes.
goal of the elevator pitch is, to get them to ask that next question, isn't it? It's
Mhm.
really about getting them to engage. So you want to find something in your story that will entice engagement.
Yeah.
And And we all have that clever reason. We all
Yeah.
do, but we forget it, or we think we try too hard to be something we think the investors or the people we're pitching to want to hear. Don't do
Mm.
that. Stay
That's
true to
where I
your voice.
yeah. I was going to say, sorry, Carrie, I was going to
No,
say
go ahead.
that's where you mentioned authenticity is so important because no one else can have your origin story, the
Right,
circumstances, the
right.
challenges overcome. As you said, there may be a need that you had many years ago, and that was just not, you are unable to find it. So you thought, you know what, I'll have to create it because I've been able to overcome hurdles now, and let me be the person and the organization that supports others who may be experiencing the same thing. What about, and I know that you draw upon expansive experience within the entertainment industry, and we know that, yes, the words and the structure of a story is so important. So is the delivery. Talk about the importance of delivery when it comes to delivering and communicating our origin story.
Yes. There is no shame in not being the best speaker. None at all. If you're partnered with somebody in your business and they have a much more um, easier way of communicating, first and foremost, let them do the pitch. Let
Mhm.
them get in front of the people. There's no harm or foul in it because I think entrepreneurs especially, and I call myself a serial entrepreneur too. We try to be everything, don't we? I think we try to wear every hat. We have to be the bookkeeper, the accountant, the banker, the marketing expert. We have to have the be the speaker. We have to be the sales manager. You have to be, you have to be everything. You have to be HR. I mean, everything. We can't. We cannot. We have to learn to let go of some of these pieces, and getting in front of and talking to somebody can be nerve-wracking, and we try too hard to be what we think they want to hear. When I
Mm.
was sitting in front with some investors, I didn't realize this guy was like one of the most well-known bankers in California and the wealthiest and best known, and I'm sitting there at lunch with him, and he was asking me these questions about my business plan, and and he said, "I'm sorry to ask those questions." I said, "No, I don't have a problem with it." And I told him, and I was very honest about it. And he said, "You do realize I'm thinking of investing in with you, right? That's what we're here for." I said, "Yeah." He said, "But you're not telling me that you expect you'll be a billionaire by the end of 2020." And I said, "But I don't expect that." And
Yeah.
he started laughing. He said, "You know how many entrepreneurs come in here and tell me they're gonna be on the moon within 2 years with this great product?" And I said, "Well, why would you invest in them if they're not telling the truth?" And he laughed. He said, "You've not done this before, have you?" And I said, "No." And he said, "You're so refreshing. I wanna be in business with you just because you're so refreshing." It was my naivete that he was attracted to. It was my complete unawareness of what I was supposed to say and do that he
Yeah.
found refreshing. So, being yourself, not being afraid to say, "I don't know,"
Mhm.
not being afraid to say, "I hope we'll be at this financial level," because, they always say, "Well, how much money are you gonna make and how many customers do you need?" Tell the truth. Tell the
Mm.
truth. And tell them that this is based on information that you've researched and you've seen what other people have done, but don't try to make stuff up to try to impress or to try to win people over. They've done this a hell of a lot more than any of us have, and
Absolutely.
and they know when they're being BS'd. They know. They can feel it. So
Yeah.
when you have a good story, stay true to yourself and to your story, and it doesn't guarantee that the person will be interested in you, but you never know that they might introduce you to somebody who would be interested in you and your product, because
Yeah.
they have a set of products they wanna invest in. They know that before going in.
Yes. You know what's, I think, also important and a reminder is that when we are telling a story that really is our origin story, it's something that is so connected to us because we've lived and breathed it, and in some instances struggled through it and come through the other end,
Yeah.
that we bring a nuance in the sharing of it that it is just, this is me. And so there is nothing that we really need to rehearse, you
Yes.
know? Yeah.
But that's the point. They want
Yeah.
you. They do
Yeah.
business with you. You might have the
Yeah.
best product in the world, but it's you they want to be in business with.
Yeah. Yeah. And also too, you were talking about people get nervous and they want to say the right thing. Often it is just having that communication, that open, honest, authentic communication, and a lot of the rehearsed, too over rehearsed, and the kind of BS kind of thing, as you said, it stands out. And I think some studies that were done via the Edelman Trust Barometer, and Edelman is the consultancy who does that annual what
Yeah.
constitutes trust, what's really important. So many of the surveys, particularly even 5-6 years ago, confirmed that anything too polished and rehearsed was immediately mistrusted, because they thought of the media. Media is so often mistrusted, and it hasn't been doing itself much favors either. I have to say, it's for a good reason, that we mistrust them, and so we don't want to be too polished, and rehearsed. Yes, we want to have an idea of what we want to share and what we want to tell them, but the delivery, trust that you know what you have to say. I will often do that too. I'll rehearse something, and then when you speak it, you might use different words, but the essence, the theme of
Yes.
that is there,
Yes.
isn't there?
Yeah.
That is what's often, what's that saying, Carrie? That people might not remember word for word what you shared, but they will remember what it did, what it made, them feel, how it made them feel.
Yes. 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 People remember, they leave the room with a feeling. They don't leave the room with knowing exactly everything you've said. They walk away saying, "Oh, that was fun. That was interesting. Oh, I like them. They didn't really feel comfortable in front of us." That's what they leave with, a
Yeah.
feeling of how they could connect to you. And the way
Yes.
they connect is by the conveyance of your message, and your
Mhm.
message is your story.
Yeah. I love that. So if someone is listening today and is thinking, well, because I've heard this before. That people say, I don't really know what I'm going to say till I sort of stand up and then just start talking, and whatever kind of comes out of my mouth will come out of my mouth. What is a good place? What are some things, maybe one or two different action steps for them to start thinking, and it may be repeating and going full circle back to what you started off with sharing. What are some things you want them to start thinking about that will be important to include in their origin story?
Boy, that's a good question. Um, First and foremost, it's why. Why why this product? Why this service? Why this business? Why did this speak to you on a very personal level? Sometimes the reason why you get into a business is because, I know people in the health industry will say, my mom died of cancer, so I've always wanted to find, the thing that was the most difficult for her was getting around because she was very weak. So I created this product that made it easier for her to get around, or easier for her to communicate on a phone. And when you can talk about something that's very personal to you, that that connects, because we
Mm,
can we all have a cancer story, even if it's twice removed. It may not be immediate family, but we all, I think at this day and age, we all have a cancer story. Somebody we work with, somebody we know had cancer or has cancer, and what they're living with. So I'm not saying your story has to include cancer, but what I'm saying is, what is the personal connection you can make for the reason why you picked this business, or
mm,
this um, company you wanted to build? Back to
mm,
Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. They wanted to create a way to meet chicks at Harvard. That was it. That's the that's the foundation. And, for being a bunch of
No brainstorming there. It was
no,
just
no, and yeah, and all the guys in the tech world were like, yeah, because these tech guys are nerdy. I mean, my husband's a tech guy, and I love that he's a nerd. He thinks I'm making fun of him. I'm not. I mean, but we love the connecting to these nerds. I mean, it became this whole persona, the nerd persona, and it was wonderful. So make it personal. Don't be afraid to feel different from the rest of the world. We are different. We are
yeah.
unique. Bring that
Yeah.
uniqueness to the why you went this route. The other
Mhm.
thing I would say is don't try to be perfect. Don't try to overthink it and figure out what you think you have to say to get their attention. I I I have a technique that I do when I get in front of people. If they want I hate PowerPoint slides, but sometimes people want a PowerPoint slide. I hate them because I can't read them. I can't stand and read them to people. Yet some people try to do that. They try to put a script together that they read it straight from the page or they read it straight from the PowerPoint. Don't do that because people will know you're reading it and it won't connect.
Mhm.
Try to get comfortable, even if you're not right, but get comfortable with telling the story, even if you're not exact every time. But get comfortable with explaining your story and the why and how you think what you want to do will impact the world in some way. Will
Mm.
it change it? Maybe not, but what will be the impact of the world?
Yes, yes. So important. I think we often look at our own lives and don't see the golden nuggets of the little stories that happened. And I know that there are, are some of us, and I know that we're passionate about storytelling. I remember when I was still a kid, one of my friends, her brother was such a good storyteller. You would say something like mouse, and he would come up with the story, and you were gripped from the minute he started right through to the end. In what some of the games that you played,
Yeah.
you just that muscle, like build that muscle, but start, as you say, start to think about your why. What was happening at the time? What are some of the things that you went through? Because when we turn around, I think it was Steve Jobs that said, when you turn back and you look at the dots and you connect them, that often will develop a thread that you can kind of see that led you down the path to where you are today. And often when you start just in that creative process, it's incredible where you identify, oh, there were these three key things, and I can weave them together in a story. They're relevant to my ideal client or my investor or, my potential customer. And if I share them and weave them together, that can really provide some real why it's important, and have some real emotion behind that. I
Yes.
think sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for our own story, do we? Think, oh, my stories are boring. I don't have any stories. Nothing happened to me. I mean, how often have we said that? And we start to unpack that one by one by one, and we realize, oh my goodness, that is a great story. Put
Yes,
together.
yes.
Right.
We all have a story in us. We all do. We all have many stories in us. And I say have fun with it. When
Yes.
you start to look at your stories, it can be fun. It doesn't
Mm,
have to be, oh, I don't want to do that. Have fun with
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Especially when you
You
can
know,
start picking out characters. But go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. I was going to say, and sometimes there are some people who may not have a very expressive body language, own it. You said just be yourself, own it. You can incorporate something within that
Yes.
to make
Yes.
people laugh a little bit, and that really breaks the ice. So I share
Yes.
that because sometimes people, oh, well, I can't do that because I'm not really a good storyteller. Whatever you do or however you present or speak, weave that into your story, and I think that just that would just break the ice, and the elephant in the room kind of thing too. You could address that. Oh, there's so many things we could say, and we have just scratched the surface, Carrie, but I hope through our conversation today and the wonderful examples that you have shared, it has started the creative juices flowing in someone's mind and thinking, you know what, this is not only possible for me, I think it really can be a fun process. If they would like some support in that, how can they reach out to you? What is the best way for them to do that?
Go to my website, carriekcwest.com. Email me. I think my phone number might even be on there, much to my husband's chagrin. He doesn't want everybody calling me, but email me. It's carriekcwest.com. I would love to hear from you. And everybody has a story to tell. And one more thing I would add, you said what else would I would say? Get comfortable with being yourself. Get comfortable with being whatever downtrodden word you have for yourself. I'm not gonna. Get comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Because you know what? We all started off that way. Somebody said to me one time, "Oh, you're so great at this." I wasn't always. I'd get up there, I don't know. So get comfortable. But yes, please reach out to me, Carrie at carriekcwest.com. Do they see my name here? Do
They
they see it?
do. They
Yes.
do.
So
Yes. So
that's
type that
it.
into the search engine or whatever platform, if you're on a social platform,
Yes.
and you will pop up. Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, what we said when we last spoke, that getting people around like a virtual fire, what is it? They call it a fireside chat. I think that's the term that they use, isn't it? I mean, we really need to do that more because stories connect.
Yes.
When you learn about someone, and this may not necessarily be in a business context, you also are talking about in life context, it's incredible the compassion and the empathy that you can have for someone through listening to a life story or an aspect of their life story. Doesn't mean you always need to agree with people, but I think it just allows for a good opportunity to be able to have some deeper understanding about
Yes.
people. And goodness, don't we need that in the world today, Carrie?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have another one of my dreams that I could set that up and give people a chance to get comfortable with their stories when they want to tell other people, where it's a safe environment where you just know you'll be accepted and nobody's gonna go roll their eyes or say anything. But just see how people respond and see the genuine responses you get from people when you share your genuine stories. It'll open your heart so quickly. It's a beautiful thing to experience.
And it's a ripple effect. It causes a ripple effect, doesn't it?
Yes, it
Your
does. It
story
does.
impacts someone else, and on and on and on it goes.
Well,
And
it reminds us we're not alone. You
Mhm.
We all go through the same things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, someone is courageous enough to be transparent and someone actually, that happened to me. Yeah, it happened to me too. Or I know someone that happened to. And as you
Yes.
say,
Yes.
immediately you realize, my goodness, I'm not alone and that this is not just me. So,
No, exactly. Exactly.
well, thank you so much again for coming on the show. Please search out Carrie. Here's her name, Carrie KC West, if you're listening to the audio, but all the details will be on the show notes, and reach out to her and see how you can work with her. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Carrie. It's been an
This has
absolute delight.
been It's been my pleasure. Anytime, Anne Marie. Anytime.
Yes. See you
Thank
later.
you. Bye.
Hey, it's Anne-Marie. Before I go, are you a coach or a consultant who feels like the world's best kept secret? Your experience is vast, yet secretly you're frustrated because despite all of your hard work, you're just not getting the visibility, the recognition, or new clients you'd hope for, and you don't know why? I've created a free resource that'll help you build visibility, generate leads, and enroll dream clients with ease because you're seen as a trusted authority, even in a crowded marketplace. And you've positioned yourself as the choice versus just a choice for your dream client. To get started, go to annemariecross.com/gift. That's annemariecross.com/gift.